Hello, welcome to the WTF. This is Rhonda Shea, and today I've got a special guest. We're broadcasting live both from the audio side and the video side because I have got a wonderful guest all the way from Canada. Her name is Tracy Horseman. Tracy is an internationally known psychic medium, and she's here to talk to us about what it's like to, first of all, I was curious about what it's like to live with all those messages in your brain and things like that, and then perhaps if she has time we'll take some call-ins and some people can check in with Tracy. So I'm going to turn here so I can face Tracy because it's kind of rude to have my back to you guys and her and everybody else. So I'm going to switch around so I can have a conversation with Tracy, and I'm going to welcome to the show, Tracy. We're thrilled to have you today.
Hi.
So
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure, and I'm just 1 minute on Facebook here. I'm trying to gather the feed so that I can put it on my own Facebook page as well. So I don't see it yet, so it'll get over here pretty soon. When it does, I'm gonna jump in on it. And all right, so let's give it 1 second. I don't see it, but Henry might be able to come in and help me with that. All right. Anyway, Tracy, I'm going to spin around so we can have a talk. All right. Then, all right, let me turn this up because I've got to be able to hear you too, so I'm going to put this on so I can hear you. All right, Tracy, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm just going to check on the sound here a bit. Okay. So tell me a little bit what I wanted to do. Tracy, thank you for coming all the way from, joining us all the way from Canada. You're in Calgary, is that right?
Yes, hot Calgary.
And have you lived there your whole life? Is that your...
Since I was 5. I was born in Ontario.
Uh-huh. That's great. And so what I wanted to do is have you give us a little background, Tracy, because first of all, let's repeatedly throughout the show let people know about your website and how they can find you. So let's start out with, if you want to find Tracy on her website, how do you do that?
You go to thmedium.ca.
That's great. I'm going to add Henry, my computer. Can you add, that's my Facebook feed has that, Henry? Thank you. So you go to thmedium.ca. Okay, folks, if you want to find out more about Tracy, that's where you can do it. Tracy, when did you realize that you were seeing people that other people just couldn't see, or hearing messages from that most of us just aren't, either we are not open to hearing them, which we may hear them, we just aren't open to them, or we just don't get that, we just don't have that gift. So when did
Most people just don't understand what they're hearing, because the dead don't speak physical language like we do. They don't speak English, German, French, nothing like that. They speak through the vibrational languages of our senses. Sight, touch, taste, smell, sound, whatever that might be. And it's kind of like a thought that interrupts the rest of your thoughts, a smell that comes out of nowhere that you shouldn't be smelling, things like that. They speak the vibrational language. And so putting it together that this was coming from spirit, that took quite a while. I always knew I was different and special, I guess, in a way. But I never really knew exactly what it was until probably about 10 years ago, when all the medium shows and everything started coming out. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's what I go through. Wow. And I started piecing it together.
That's interesting, because I guess you would have to take some kind of an awareness or an awakening to know that that's happening in your life. Oh, good. I've got the comments in front of me now, so if anyone comments or wants to ask a question later, we can do that. So, Tracy, let me ask you another question. You said through vibrations and the senses. So I'll use this as an example. I was recently selling a condominium that belonged to my mother, and I kept it for many years after she passed, and decided it was time to sell it. And it was completely empty. Everything was done. I walked in just for one last walk. The last several times I went in, and it smelled exactly like it used to smell. And I thought, well, am I just imagining this? I said, my husband, this is like, it's my mother. I can smell her. And he was like, that's crazy. I said, well, listen, it's been rented for 8 years to somebody else. It's empty now. There's no way it should still have the smell of the fragrances that, remind me of her in this room.
Yeah.
Is that what you think that was? Okay,
that's her letting you know that she's with you at that moment. That's her pulling up. So it's kind of like when you're smelling bread. You don't have to see it, touch it, taste it, feel it. It doesn't have to be anywhere around you, but you will know there's bread cooking because you can pick it up through the vibrations of your nose. When your mom's around, you will feel those vibrations. And it was her way of letting you know that she was giving you her, not approval, but unconditional love at that moment, because she knew I can feel it at that moment. It's one of those moments where it's bittersweet, right? You're happy to be moving away from that, but at the same time, it's very nostalgic.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because I didn't realize that, and that's, I think many people don't understand that and I think the sense of smell is one of the biggest senses we have in terms of reminding us of things, just in memory alone, let alone, you know, through the other side. So
that's one way. The other way that they speak is with synchronicity and cooperative incidences. That's what coincidence actually means. It has nothing to do with fluke, random chance. There's no such thing, actually, as fluke, random, and chance. It's cooperative incidences. It's us and them together.
that's interesting. I didn't even realize that. So you're teaching me. I'm just looking up here. We already have Kevin over here. He said hello. He's got his hands up like this. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for tuning in. I'm just turning around and taking a peek. Tell me a little bit about, so what was the transition? Once you realized that you had this gift, what made you decide to make it available, or is it something you just didn't feel you could turn down? You had to share it.
Well, bear with me for a second, because that's a story. I've always been inclined to tarot cards and things like that, trying to understand. Like, I just had a fascination with the other side my entire life. And then one day I moved into a place that was very haunted. And, well, the place wasn't haunted, I should say, but I got haunted in that place. I was living in a small town, and every time I would cross these certain railroad tracks, there was a spirit there that just kind of came home with me one day. And I kept hearing in my head the words, find my sisters, find my sisters. And it freaked me out. I thought, you know, don't tell anybody, they're going to lock me up. And it scared me for a long time, and I didn't want to do anything about it. And then I started getting, like, literally haunted. I woke up at 3 in the morning and I felt an energy right here going, find my sisters. So finally I grew the courage to put it out there on social media in this small town and say, if you guys know the person who passed on these railroad tracks, please get in touch with me, because I need to talk to his sister. One day I get a phone call a few weeks later from the sisters. And turns out, long story short, that one of them was in a deep depression since her brother had passed. They thought that he had committed suicide because he got hit by a train, but it was an accident. And the one sister was planning on hurting herself. And in that reading, when they called me and I just said, listen, I think I'm a medium. I've got this information coming through and he won't go away until I pass it on. So just let me tell you what he's got to say. And then you can think I'm crazy or whatever, but just hear me out. And so they did. Long story short, the one girl had sleeping pills in her purse. She was planning on going home that night and being done. And Spirit had linked them up with me that exact day, and her brother was able to tell the other sister, because they were both there, about the sleeping pills in the purse. And
oh my God,
that saved her life that day.
Oh my God. That's unbelievable, really. I mean, that's amazing. And you had no idea. You just kind of said you got to get this message out there. It was that urgent. They were yelling at you that or that.
And it was constant. It was scary, and it was constant, and it was overwhelming. They don't start with scary stuff, but when there's a reason for them to bring me this information, I learned that day, there's always a reason for this to happen. And if I can just grow the courage to tell people what I'm seeing and feeling and picking up, without caring whether or not they think I'm crazy, then it could impact somebody's life. It could save somebody's life.
Wow.
At that point in time, I had to care more about other people than I did about my own fear.
Wow. That's just, yeah, I got goosebumps.
I just put up an ad, or not an ad, but a post on Facebook, and I said, okay, guys, I think I'm a medium. So 5 people that I don't really know, the first 5 people to come to me, I'll try to do free readings and see if they're accurate. And if they are, then I guess I'm a medium. And they were extremely accurate. And it was just one thing after that.
Wow.
Word got after that. I don't even advertise. Word just got out. and here we are.
And here we are, right on our show.
Yeah.
There's a couple people here. Lana said hello. So I just want to, as people pop in, I just want to let you know that they're listening and they're commenting or whatever. So well, that's a pretty rude awakening in some ways,
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
It's like, what? Oh, okay.
That's when I learned about synchronicity, and that there's no such thing as coincidence. That spirit will align you at the perfect place at the perfect time.
I believe that myself in terms of, there's just been too many things in my life that, and I've told someone that we were talking about careers and different things like that, and I said, you know what, it just seemed like whenever I was ready, there was the next thing. I never really had to search for it. There it was, there it was, there it was, and which sounds weird, but and then recognizing that it's there,
Mm-hmm.
What about do you have multiple spirits communicating with you or trying to communicate with you at all the time? I mean, do you ever get any peace? What?
Sometimes I get peace. I mean, it never stops, right? It never stops. So some days you get up, and I think a lot of people, especially right now in the world, a lot of people's senses are starting to open up, and a lot of people go through this. It's kind of like you'll feel anxiety out of nowhere for no reason, and then your friend will call you up and tell you that she's had this crisis in her world or something. And do you know what I mean? It's things like that constantly. I can usually turn it off to some degree when I'm not working, especially, I mean, I can sage and do my blessing and just tell spirit, get out, and they will. They have to listen to us, right? But for the most part, I don't go to concerts. I don't go into big crowds and things like that because it's just too much. You just can't. I can control my own environment. I can't control everywhere else I go.
So if you go somewhere and there's a lot of people, then I'm making an assumption here that there's a lot of people, so there might be spirits around each of those people in the crowd, and so then you may have 100 voices yelling at you, or 10, or whatever. Is that what happens?
That's absolutely what happens. So for every single person, there's at least 5 beings around them that I can feel. Minimum 5.
Wow.
Minimum.
And do you ever experience things that are kind of scary or horrifying, like you? Because not everything's good, right? Not everything's good, I would assume.
Well, spirit, most of the time, I'll tell you something. Because doing this work, I really feel like I've been protected. So the scary stuff, the evil stuff, as long as you don't pay attention to it, and as long as I feel like I'm doing God's work, then I'm kind of protected from the scary stuff. But scary stuff can still happen when spirit is trying to communicate with you, but not because they're trying to scare you, but because they have that desperation to get the message through. Like the first time when I kept getting haunted, and I realized afterwards that it was because he was trying to save his sister.
Okay.
It's not because they're trying to be mean,
Okay.
It's because they're desperate, so to speak, right?
Okay. And I have a question from one of our listeners. Do the spirits come to you also while you are asleep, or send messages in your dreams? And I know they do because you've talked to me about it. But
Yes, they do. Especially if they want a message for somebody that I'm not in communication with or haven't seen in a while, they will show up in my dream in weird ways.
Wow. So you don't even get rest when you're resting sometimes.
No, and the thing people should understand about dreams, though, is that when spirit is communicating through our dreams are very literal interpretations of how we feel about the world or how we're process the world. So what I mean by that is, let's say in the physical world you said something you shouldn't have said. We'll call that putting our foot in our mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go to sleep at night, you will dream about eating your foot with a knife and fork. That's why our dreams are so wonky, because they're literal interpretations of our daily life.
Okay.
So when spirit communicates with your dreams, you'll get a lot of weird dreams. You don't always see spirit. You'll just get a bunch of weird messages, if that makes sense.
And do you think that the people that have passed on visit us in our dreams?
They do, but they wait until we are... the dead have made this very clear. It's one of the first things they made clear to me when I started doing this work, was that they can't come too soon because people will misinterpret their energy. So I had a lady once who came to see me that her mom had passed a month before, and her mom were best friends. And her mom dropped and had a heart attack right in front of her. And so she came to see me a month later, and she was horrified and in tears, saying that every night since then, her mom kept coming to her in her dreams and trying to stab her with a knife. And she wanted to know why her mom was angry at her. And I was like, sweetie, your mom is not angry at you. You feel like your mom's death killed you. Therefore, when she tries to visit, you interpret that as killing. So sometimes when somebody passes away and they're like, why aren't they coming to me in my dream yet? It's because they don't want to torture you. They don't want to twist you up like that. You know what I mean? They want to wait until you're in a place that you can receive it with the love they intended.
That's interesting. I thought too that perhaps they were just tired, like if they'd had a long battle with cancer, or where it's just been a really long, drawn out, horrible kind of death thing, that the spirits were just like, let me recoup and then I'll visit.
Yeah, their time and our time is very different. They don't experience time the same way that we do, and they can experience all of time. So when they get up there, they can go back to the past and revisit the past and go to the future and then come back and meet us in like a blink right after they pass. They can do all of that in a blink of an eye. Their time is a lot different than ours. Huh. And their number one thing they want to do is for you to ask them for help. Because when you ask them for help or ask them for a sign, then they can show up in your world, and then you feel their presence, not their loss.
Well, that's a good thing. Now, do you think they show up through I've had people say when people pass, they see their lights kind of flicker, or do you think they show up that way? Is that?
There's so many different ways. Lights is one way. Nature, they will make nature act unnaturally. So you might hear all of a sudden a bird outside your window, and you're like, shut up, why won't that thing stop? And that's a message. It can be coins. They like to use coins a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, pennies from heaven.
Yeah.
We don't really have pennies anymore, so they use dimes and nickels and quarters and things like that. But that's one way they show you they're there.
Wow.
Feathers, all kinds of different things.
Now that hit home because my grandfather, who I was very close to, passed many, many years ago now. But it was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I was in my study at the time. And my grandfather always would give me silver dollars, and they would hide them. And I thought it was magic. He'd put his cane on him and go like this, and then a silver dollar would show up. And I was sitting in my office. I was having a particularly hard time with some things, and I was just feeling terrible. And I looked down, and there was a silver dollar on my floor. And I thought, where the heck did that come from? And I picked it up, and I thought, huh. I mean, of course, I must have had it in my house somewhere. But I was like, wow. And I just thought, huh. I think that's a message.
That is absolutely a message, because it makes you think of your grandfather, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you think of him, you're feeling his energy. You can't think of him if he's not with you. Oh. Just like you can't smell bread if it's not cooking.
Wow, that's interesting. So when you start to have those moments and reflections, it might be that they're surrounding you with their love and
that's
their
exactly
energy.
What it means. You are picking up their presence through the vibrations of your senses.
Oh, that's amazing. That's cool. I'm going to check this real quick, and so I'm not passing up anybody here. And
can you say happy birthday? It's somebody's birthday. I can't get it. All I can hear while we're doing this. Happy birthday,
happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. My mother's birthday was yesterday.
Yes. And there's another one, either just passed or coming up from somebody that's watching right now, because it's overwhelming. So just say that.
Wow. I'm trying to think June. I'm not sure about that, but happy birthday, who's ever there. That's funny. My mom's birthday was yesterday. We have birthday buddies in our family, so everyone, because we have so many birthdays that were the same. So my mother's birthday buddy was our little niece Elisa, who just turned 18, and so we just had her party yesterday too. And so we each have a birthday buddy, and it's kind of fun because it's kind of fun. There's always an older person with a younger person, and they kind of are their special friend. So that's cool. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, well, we're pretty close family. All right, so here's somebody here. My daughter, who passed recently, his birthday is July 1st. Oh, that's one of the ladies that's on the thing. It might be her, Lana. Lana, her daughter just passed recently, and her birthday is July 1st. You think that's her, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, she thinks it's her, Lana.
You know how I know? Because I'm flooded with a whole bunch more information. See, this is what I mean. The dead have a way of being able to direct their message towards who they need it to.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you said that, I felt a restriction in my breath.
Wow.
And then I see someone go, I breathe fine on this side. So
I breathe fine on this side. Does that make sense, maybe, to Lana? Is there anything else coming through for her? Or?
See, when I don't have a direct connection.
Yeah, I know it's hard.
Them,
You're going through me.
It's a little bit harder. But I'll tell you something. This soul is very, very strong because they were able to interject through our conversation and get that out right at the perfect time for her to be able to comment that and you to see it. Do you see all the links and synchronicities that had to go together to get that to happen?
Oh, and it says, maybe that's why you're having trouble with your breathing. She said she suffered from severe anxiety.
Yeah.
And so that's what you were...
And then she goes, I can breathe on this side. I can breathe. So
wow.
She's not suffering from that anxiety anymore. And it's her way to say, see, Mom, I'm with you. I'm not gone. I'm just invisible now.
Wow, because I could see you being restricted when you started talking about her all of a sudden physically.
Yes.
I could see that. Wow. You're just amazing. What do you think? Do you think most of us have this gift and we just don't recognize it, or some people have? Obviously, some people have more of a gift than others. But is it something that we've lost in our, that we had maybe when we were 2 million years ago? Everybody was able to communicate this way, or 6,000 years ago, and now it's.
Well, it's a combination of things. So we only use, what is it, like 8% of our brain or something like that. And I think it's kind of like some people have better vision than other people. Some people have better hearing than other people. Some people have more developed gut instinct than other people and things like that. I think we all have the ability, but each of us has different specialties. And I think that depends on life experience. It depends on a lot of different things, on how we perceive that information around us, right?
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What I think too is that as we get lost in busyness and technology and running, we don't have time to be in connection with our spiritual self. And I think that sometimes life, where you may have had that gift, you just don't even know it. Now people like you, obviously, it's screaming in their face, they don't have any choice. But I think the average person, we tend to just either not believe it or not trust an instinct, or just kind of push it aside as, oh yeah, so what, it's a cardinal, it showed up 3 days in a row. It's just a bird. And we're not open to thinking that way, perhaps.
And that's the beauty of life, is that we are all allowed to believe and evolve at our own level, right? Mm-hmm. And all I have to say to those people is that they really are missing out, because then you're separated from all of those, what I call our team, our non-physical loved ones on the other side. If you got to understand, they don't have a physical body to communicate the same language that we do. They have to utilize the vibrational energies. So if you pass off all those synchronicities, it's like cutting off of one of your senses and denying it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And each to their own. I don't dock anybody who does that, but those people tend to feel a little bit more depressed, a little bit more disconnected, a little bit more alone sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good.
When you understand that there's spirit everywhere, and you give them that, what's the word, validation, when these things happen, you get more of it. And then they start happening in such a way that there is no denying that it's happening a lot. And then it becomes a situation of how many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible.
Yes, and that's true. That's very true. I've seen that where this happens, that happens, this happens, and it's like, how could that be?
And then it makes you re-wonder what the word coincidence actually means, right?
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true. I'm just looking up here and see if there's anybody else. Not yet. If you have a question and you want to ask us, it would be okay, or you want to put a comment in there. If we can't guarantee anything because we never know who's going to show up when or where, but we can certainly try. So just a little note there. So let me ask you this, because I've been wondering about this for 10 years. So I'm gonna have you, since I've got you, I'm gonna just use this story.
Okay.
And so I had a dear friend pass, and I mean very, very close friend. We were like this, childhood friend, and it's been many years. I still cry. But after she passed, I had a dream. It was so vivid, and this is the weirdest dream ever. I kind of was transported away from wherever I was, and there were all these little things of light, like almost like a graveyard of light. But it was spirit, but it was light. And I remember wandering in there looking for her, and I thought, well, her light's going to be dim because she was just so sick. And I'm just wandering this dream, and all of a sudden my grandfather appeared, and he said, "You need to turn around. You need to go back. You shouldn't be here. You need to leave." And I said, "Why? I'm looking for Kathy." He said, "She'll be fine. You need to leave because you could get stuck here. You need to leave." Yep. And he was angry, and he made me leave. And that was the weirdest dream I've ever had, and I to this day keep wondering what that was. So I'm going to see if you have any ideas on that.
Oh, absolutely. I know what that means, and I had chills up and down my whole body as you spoke about that dream. So what you were describing is in your dream state. Remember, our dreams are a very literal interpretation of our physical reality. So in your dream state, you were searching for your friend, and you were ignoring your reality. You were ignoring the present to turn to the past and look to the dead and a lot of people do this when they're grieving. They turn to the past and they get deep in depression and they look over there. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then their present starts to crumble. And it takes them off their path, and it takes you onto a path of grief and anxiety and sadness. And so your grandfather showing up was his way to say, "Listen, do you see all these lights? She's good. She's fine. We're all here taking care of her. You go focus on you. Focus on your life so that you're not over here too. Because if you don't focus on your life and your light, then your energy will dim to the point that you will end up over there as well."
Wow, thank you, because I spent many years wondering what that was, and it almost gave me the creeps. It sounds weird, but it was a very vivid dream. Let's see what we've got here.
Can I ask a question about her though, so because once you mention somebody, they step forward.
Oh, okay.
And she keeps showing me spinning around, and she's telling me that she looks fabulous on that side.
Good.
So I don't know if she was had an issue with her weight, or she had some anxiety around her weight or something, or if it was just her personality to look fabulous. But she keeps wanting you to know that she's looking fabulous.
Well,
and I see this, which is sudden, unexpected, or traumatic passing, very quickly.
Yeah, she actually had a bad passing, and it was through cancer. And she did not look good by the end. Her body was ravaged. So, but she had always been somebody who took care of herself, and yeah.
That's why she's saying that she looks fabulous over there.
Is she doing that? Did she do that with the snaps like you did?
Well, that is my sign for quick passing, sudden, very quickly. Mm-mm. And so when you say she has cancer, that's her way of saying, you know what, she doesn't see it the same way you do. When you think back to her passing, you see her suffering. When she thinks back to her passing, she sees it going quick. She was on the other side. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
And she's not suffering. When you're looking for a dim light, you're not going to find her, because there's no lights on that side that are dim. They are all bright. When we leave behind the physical body, we are immediately in love, light, and peace. Immediately.
Well, that's awesome. That's good. That's good to know. That's cool. So I think it's interesting, because I think sometimes those very vivid dreams that someone has like that are so real. I mean, I've had dreams where I've sat up sometimes and I touch my eyes to see if I'm sleeping or awake, because I'll see the person. And it's so real. And it's like, what, am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? Am I sitting up? Am I not sitting up? And I think sometimes those very vivid dreams we have are messages from the other side. Because they're not like normal dreams where they're just they're very in your face kind of dreams, to me anyway. Is that?
Yes, because They tell me all the time that they're not dead, they're just invisible. This is my explanation that I give to people. If you have a water bottle, say you have 2 water bottles, and you write on one bottle, bottle A, and you write on the other one, bottle B, you can tell which is which, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you open the caps and you dump those bottles of water into a big bowl, can you look in that bowl and see which is water A and which is water B?
No.
You can't. It all mixes together in the everything. The bottles is the water's way to physically differentiate between each other.
Wow.
And that's like our physical bodies. It's our way to physically differentiate between each other. And the dead, when they lose their physical body, they don't stop communicating with us. They don't just go away. They very much want to interact in your life. They want to help you. And they can help you in a different way on that side. So sometimes when we're going through a challenge or something in our life, they will show up because they want us to ask for their help.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. What is the, I mean, the railroad track was quite amazing, but are there any other instances where you just had something that was either frightening or just completely, wow, like that kind of blew your mind as well?
Yeah, where do we start?
All the time.
In my world, I'll tell you, there's not a lot of, even my own family that likes to sleep over at my house because things move, things happen, things, physical things. TVs go on and off, doorbells ring, doors open, things move, keys move, things happen like that. I once was preparing for a reading, and the lady came into my house for the reading. And when she sat down, I was like, oh my gosh, you've got energy with you that is really strong. And then, boom, my sage bowl blew up.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what do you do? Like, it came out in the reading that she was a funeral director.
Oh, okay.
So that explains the very strong energy and why that happened. I've heard, so when I moved into this house just a couple of months ago, brand new house and everything, I'm alone by myself in the house. I'm walking up the stairs with a load of laundry, and I hear a voice in my ear go, he's in the house.
Oh.
I just about peed my pants.
Oh, that would do it for me.
I was a little scared, but then I've learned to calm myself. First of all, I just protect my house. I sage my house, and just so people know, sage kind of acts the same way, when you get a greasy pot of water and you put dish soap in it, the grease kind of dissipates.
Yes.
Well, sage acts like the dish soap for negative energy.
Okay.
When you burn sage, negative energy dissipates.
Well, and I know that Native Americans use sage in a lot of rituals and blessings too. That must be why.
Yes, and sweetgrass, and there's a few different herbs and stuff that work really great for that. But so I saged and everything, and then right after that, I was seeing a certain client in my head, and I know this client had been through some trials recently, and that's an awkward position for me because I know that her loved one is coming here and trying to give me a message or is trying to warn about something, but I can't professionally call her up and go, hey, I don't know what this means, but I'm hearing he's in the house. That would just scare the crap out of her. So I basically just asked God to take care of it and whatnot, and the next day she phoned me up and asked me if I'd had any messages lately because something scary happened. So, yeah,
wow.
scary, I don't know, every day.
That sounds, that would be really hard to get used to. When you were little, did it happen when you were a child as well?
It was scarier when I was a child, because when I was a child, I couldn't differentiate between people and the dead. I saw them differently. I don't see the dead like that anymore. I feel it through all of my senses. But when you're a child, you feel it so strong that you actually physically see them, if that makes sense.
Well, that does make sense. I've had children that I know in our family that have said things like, point to nothing and say, look, there's a little boy here playing, a little boy here, and you're like, okay, just your invisible friend, go ahead, but those invisible friends might be more real than we think for children.
Oh yeah, and certain situations can get imprinted in buildings, in places and stuff. So, for example, when I was in the 6th grade, I saw a little girl get kidnapped outside of my school. I went home, I told my mom phoned the police, she phoned the school, they shut down the school, there's a big investigation, and all I remember at the end of that was that they had determined there was no child that got kidnapped, and the police officer kept saying to me, "Are you sure you didn't read this somewhere? Are you sure you didn't read this? Because this situation you're talking about, right down to the description of the car, this didn't happen today, Tracy. This happened in 1980. And all I remember when I was a child was being so confused by that. I was like, are you calling me a liar? Like, I saw it happen. It happened today. I didn't know what that meant.
Wow.
And yeah, it took me a while. There was quite a few different situations like that when I was a child that made my life very complicated, put it that way.
Well, I guess it would. I mean, because it'd be hard to discern between what was happening, what wasn't, and then people also wondering what the heck's wrong, that you're seeing things that they're not, you know?
Yeah, and how do you know things you're not supposed to know?
Yeah, really. I mean,
that would frequently happen. So my mom would like go buying Christmas presents or something, and I would come in the room and go, I know what I'm getting, and I would list everything I'm getting. Like, I would just know. You know what I mean?
Somebody was giving you somebody was spilling the goods to you.
Yeah.
That's cute. Let me ask you another couple of things on this. What should people do if they believe they have this gift and they want to nurture it? How would someone nurture this?
Practice, 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 practice. I can't scream that enough. That is the one thing that makes us better at anything, right? Is we have to practice. But the thing about this is that you can't practice on people that you know.
Yeah.
You have to practice on people you don't know, and you can't just walk up.
Oh, we lost some clicking here. I don't know what happened on the screen. Henry, did we lose her? I'm just gonna interject right here for a second. I think we've still got the audio feed. There we go.
I have to laugh. I'm sorry. I didn't touch anything. I don't think you did. You asked, do the dead talk through lights and stuff
that's
like
what
that
happened.
every day, Rhonda. Every day.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Welcome to my world. This is what I live with every day.
That's hysterical in a way, but it's not in others.
Everyone thinks so until they're in my life for a couple of days.
Well, you know, I think it would be very hard. I mean, honestly, I think that learning to manage that for your own mental health would be, you have to learn to manage that. If you don't, I think it could really literally drive you crazy, you know?
Well, thankfully for me, it literally saved my life because I had a very hard childhood. I grew up in a toxic family, a very dysfunctional family, and I suffered a lot of abuse. And so learning to communicate with spirit and the information that spirit has given me has completely transformed my life and took it from one where I felt fear around everything and to one of feeling a sense of just extreme gratitude for being the vessel through which, I mean, it's not me that knows all this stuff. I'm just a vessel through which the information flows. And I'm just so grateful to be in that position to watch people be reconnected with their loved ones every single day. That totally transformed my life. So it was the biggest blessing that I ever did, was learning to understand that language.
And I do think that the gift you have when you share it for people, particularly if there's something left unsaid or undone, can be very helpful to those trying to pass through their journey of grief, which we never really get through 100%, but we do learn to live with it and we learn to adjust and move forward. But you know, we never fill, I always have a theory, you never fill the hole that's there, but your heart is amazing and it can grow, so the percentage that it occupies in your heart gets smaller even though the hole stays the same size. And I think that that this type of gift, when used correctly, and if people aren't, you know, you can't be so crazy about it, that you know, you have to use it right. When it's used correctly, I think it can help people navigate that and put some closure on things that maybe they didn't have closure on before.
That's why I try to do as much free stuff as I possibly can. And I started a membership called the THM Club that I do it for a very small price because everybody needs some of that, not everybody, a lot of people need a lot of that ongoing support after somebody passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that if you can start to understand that there really isn't any such thing as death, and you can perceive it differently in the sense that they're invisible and they still communicate with us now. I mean, let's talk synchronicity and cooperative incidences here. It is not, or it is absolutely a cooperative incident that I am here with you the day after your mom's birthday. She set it up that way so that you feel her presence on her birthday.
No, that wouldn't surprise me.
That's how they work.
That's really cool. So practice. What do you do? Is there a technique? You said you sage. Is there any other technique you use to kind of clear your mind so you're not getting distracted? And like, how do you drive?
Sometimes very frustratingly, complicatedly. Sometimes it takes me a very long time to get to where I want to go because they communicate in my thoughts. For example, when I was talking to you, when your mom came through, I don't even remember what I was saying before that because she cut out my thoughts and replaced it with what she wanted to say, and now I have no clue what I was saying. So yeah, that's my life.
Wow.
That's what it's like being a medium. Sometimes it's embarrassing. I'll go to a teacher's convention or something like that, a teacher interview, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and the teacher doesn't believe in this. You can't just go in there and start saying, hey, your dad's like behind you going, you can't say that. You have to try to pay attention, and then your own thoughts get taken out, and all of a sudden the teacher's like, did you just hear me? And I'm like, no.
Then they're like, no wonder the kid's distracted in class.
See, a lot of people that suffer from anxiety and depression, they are going through this all the time, but they're interpreting it as their own thoughts. They don't understand that they're getting information from the environments around you. That's
an interesting thought. And maybe some of the ADD too, because as you described where you kind of lost focus, you know, maybe that's part of that as well. Not really necessarily ADD, maybe it's people just losing focus because they're getting all kinds of messages. And
that's exactly it.
And it presents itself that way.
But people are waiting to hear it or to physically see them or physically hear them. They don't understand that it comes in the form of thought. I tell people all the time, Spirit will play things from my library, what I call my library, which is my thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So if they want me to talk about an old lady, they'll show me my old grandma, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes people will be sitting in a situation where Spirit's trying to communicate with them, and they'll be flooded with a bunch of stuff in their own life that make no sense to what they're doing now, and then they beat up on themselves for it. They're like, focus, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's Spirit communication.
That's really interesting. Besides, now I think that the railroad track story is amazing, but can you think of another one that was that impactful that you've experienced?
Readings that were that impactful? Mm-hmm. Ooh, lots of
I'm sure you have a lot to look back on, but
I think one of my favorites ever was there's so many, but I'm going to use Christine if she's listening. I'm not going to use her last name, but a lady came to me whose daughter was murdered. And the anguish that was in that lady's life before then, her life had stopped when this happened, right? Like, I can't even imagine. And when her daughter came through, just seeing the light come back into her eyes and seeing her be able to connect in her world again and to move forward in her life and to have that constant communication with her daughter again was amazing. Specific examples is really hard because in this moment there's just too many. It's overwhelming to think of even.
But that's a great example.
You have a lot of people coming through now. Is your audience ramping up here? I'll tell you how I know. It's getting really hot in here. That's a lot of spirit coming through.
It probably is. Henry would know that. But hey, Henry, if you're listening, come on in here a minute. I want to bring Henry in. I want him to come in and want you to meet him if He might be here, he might not be. He's in the other room. Yes, the audience typically ramps up towards the back half of the show, so that could be it, you know. Plus, everyone I know is dead, so you know. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, it's like I
laugh at that.
No, it's because I had this like slew of people that within like a 5-year period, like all these people just kind of. I've never seen anything like it. It was like, what? Who? By the end of it, it was like somebody would call and say, oh, guess what? So-and-so died. And I'm like, okay. It was so many of them. So I've had that said before. I know some folks that are mediums that have said, oh, my God, there's so many people around. I said, well, it's because everybody died all about the same time, you know?
Yeah.
And but anyway, I think you heard me. I'd like to.
Thankfully, they're not all, like, coming forward around you today.
Good. Well,
at least for me.
Well, then for me too, because sometimes I can feel them myself, and it's like you know, it's okay. I do want to communicate, but I want to move on. I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be sitting in the same place all the time. It's not good for you. So, do you do anything else? Do you have another job? Do you have a day job, or do you just do this? This is it.
This is it, all day, every day.
Wow. And can you do readings like if someone wants, you know, I didn't do a lot of these questions and things because I don't want to spend the whole time, especially with the third party thing, like you said, it can get convoluted. But if someone wants a specific reading, how do they contact you? Do you have like an introductory rate? How do you do this?
Yeah, you just go to my website, thmedium.ca. You can book a private reading, or you can sign up for the THM Club, which is only $15 a month. And then that gives you one message every single month. So twice a week I go live on Zoom for members. And anybody who's a member can come on and watch the readings, and they can get their own reading once a month. I used to do it on Facebook, but Facebook took me down.
Well, they did?
They did.
Oh, you and Trump. No.
I like Trump. I'm sorry. I like Trump.
You do. I know they took you all down, didn't they? They took you all down.
Oh, they did. They absolutely did. That's okay, because that's the beautiful thing about Spirit, is they bring people to me.
That's
the biggest thing that I love about this job, and the biggest compliment I think that I ever got, was from somebody who said that it helps people believe in God again. Because when these messages come through validating things that there's no way that I could possibly know, then people know that their loved ones are still here. Then if they're still here, then that means that heaven is real, that there is no such thing as death in the way that we understand it. So
now, what do you think about animal spirits?
They come through all the time, all the time. You have a lot of dogs around you, I'll be honest with you. A lot of dogs.
That's cool. Yeah. I always wondered it, because they seem so, especially dogs, they just seem so, you know, like almost human. You know?
The animals can communicate the exact same way. How many people who, let's say, so when my cat passed, I kept tripping up the stairs or tripping over nothing. Like there was nothing there, and yet there I'm tripping. And that's because she used to do that to me all the time. She'd get under my feet and trip me. And so now, even though she's gone, I'm still going through that because she's still here. And a lot of people will go through that.
I've seen on some of those shows where they have the cameras up, like surveillance cameras for buildings and things, that or in people's homes where they've had the shadow or the spirit looking of a dog or a cat, you know, come back. And I always wondered if that was, I had never talked to a medium about it, but I wondered if that was something that comes through as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, they do. I keep seeing the bed. So you have a dog on the other side, right?
Yes, I do.
Quite a few. I shouldn't just say one, quite a few.
Yeah.
But there's one that keeps showing me, see, as we're talking about this, I'm seeing the bed dip down. So I don't know if you've ever been sitting there on the bed and all of a sudden you might feel it, but that dog jumps on the bed and still sleeps with you.
Oh, that's cute. That's good. The interesting thing, I think, is that, you know, that we sometimes as humans, we think we're the only, and we are animals, we're the only animal with spirit, with a spirit. And I think animals have spirits. I'm one that believes in that. I don't know if that's true, but I guess obviously, do you think other animals do, or is it just mostly the domesticated ones?
I think all animals do. It's just about consciousness, right? It's about levels of consciousness. Now, humans have consciousness, and what I mean by that is we have the ability to choose our thoughts. to choose and discipline ourselves about what we want to think about and do. Animals are very reactive, right? They just do what nature tells them to do. They have a lower level of consciousness. We have a higher level of consciousness, but soul is soul. It's just different levels of consciousness.
Well, I would think some animals might have a higher level of that, like a dolphin or a dog,
exactly.
or an ape, a great ape. You know, those.
And even dogs and cats. If you have an animal that was very beloved to you, you better believe that their consciousness is tuned into yours enough to be around you, and to send messages.
Well, that's cool. I bet there's a lot of people out there happy to hear that, because you know, unfortunately, pets never last as long as we do. So as you get older, you tend to rack up more on the other side than on this side. You know?
Well, the one thing that I'll tell people, for people in that position, is that if you've lost a pet and then you've all of a sudden started getting the idea, get another one, get another one, get another one, that's usually coming from the pet. Because the pet just love you unconditionally, like a dog just wants you to be happy, right? So if you're missing the dog, they'll try to put that into your mind. Get another puppy, get a puppy, get a puppy, get a puppy.
That
happens.
Yeah, they do always put you first, don't they? I mean, that's one of the beautiful gifts of those pets, the domesticated pets, is they do that. So let's talk a bit more. So they can go on thmedium.com, right?
.ca.
.ca. That's right. I'm sorry. Canada. .ca, and you can do readings virtual, correct?
Yes, over Zoom, just like we're doing here, over the phone, in person.
Oh, new here. Here's Isabella. I've got somebody here that's got a question for you, if I can jump in. Her name is Isabella, I'm going to say it right, Palomino. And she said she's new onto jumping on here. And she's just wondering if you've had any messages for Isabella. Isabella, I'm going to repeat. It's a little hard when we're doing it through a connections
third party, yeah.
Third party, but we'll see. She'll give it a shot.
Well, a couple of things come forward right away. My nose is itching again. So there's two people stepping forward around her. One is a father figure, and another one is somebody who passed suddenly, unexpectedly, or traumatically, that did not look the way that they did in life when they passed. So sometimes that can be a really bad cancer, sometimes that can be a tragedy, but they're making, when my face gets all itchy like that, that's a disfiguration of some type before they pass.
Okay, Isabella, if you're on the comment section, I don't know if you heard that. If you did and it makes sense, or it doesn't, why don't you comment back again? Well, your nose
somebody
is itchy.
That passed before we would think of as their time.
Someone who
does
passed.
Not
okay.
Sorry?
Before. Someone, I'm just going to repeat it in case you couldn't hear it. Someone that has passed before their time, and also a father figure, correct? Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, not sure. She's not sure. She might need a little more information on that. So.
Somebody that passed to the side, so that means friend, cousin, sister, relative, somebody to the side, contemporary.
A contemporary.
Suddenly, unexpectedly, traumatically, before we think of as their time.
Okay, so she said someone that's linear, like cousin, friend, not direct like a parent or a brother or sister, but more linear, correct?
Somebody to the side, so contemporary,
okay.
Around our same age.
Around your same age, a contemporary, passing quickly before their time, you know, or just before their time.
Before their time, so that
doesn't
necessarily.
It might be your grandmother.
Yeah, see, I was just going to say, it doesn't necessarily mean that they passed when they're 20. It could mean that they passed when they're 60, but they didn't live to a ripe old age of 80 or 90, you know? They passed before we think of as their time. And if somebody is carrying the memory of, like you had of your friend at the end, right, then I will pick that up with the disfiguration.
Oh, wow. Wow. My age, not that I'm aware, but she said it could be your grandmother. So,
is that her grandmother on her father's side? Because that would make sense why I'm hearing Daddy's hand. I don't think it is, because I have that father figure coming forward through her.
She said could it be her grandfather? He died of.
Remember I said I got the father figure here too? That's
yep.
Exactly. So this is what I tell people, is that it's not my life, it's not my story. I can give them, they'll play things from here, and I can tell them what I'm seeing, but they have to validate that information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if her grandfather passed suddenly, unexpectedly, or traumatically,
Cancer.
if he had some kind of disfiguration before he passed, then that's probably exactly who I'm picking up.
Yeah, prostate cancer, she said.
Tell her when you said that, this is what I saw. I saw somebody flexing muscles. I'm strong now. I'm strong. I feel like he doesn't want anyone to remember him weak. And that's why I'm getting the irritation in the face, because he doesn't want people to remember him that way.
Okay, that might make sense. So Isabel, if that makes sense to you, she said that whoever it is, that it's a male, he obviously it's a father figure of some kind, and he's doing this muscle to show that he's strong on this side. Yes, he was young at heart and always worked out. Oh my gosh, there you go. Now that's a pretty strong message when somebody sees that. Oh, wow.
Just tell her there's also babies around her. There's baby energy.
There's baby energy around you.
I don't know if that's for her, grandchildren, somebody coming in the family. I just know that her grandfather has the soul of a child with him.
So there's a soul of a child with the grandfather, a child that passed or a child that's going to be?
Could be both. I think it's a child that's coming, though, that is about to be born.
Okay, so she thinks you're going to have another one, or somebody is. She's got 3 boys right now. Well, maybe you better get ready for a 4th.
Well, see, sometimes if somebody has lost a child, either abortion, miscarriage, something like that, that soul in heaven will come back again. A lot of times that's what happens. People who've experienced miscarriages or things like that, they think that they have like all these children over there. That's one determined soul who keeps coming back and back and back until they get the opportunity.
Oh wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So that's cool. That message of the muscle in the arms was pretty specific. I mean,
they get specific, but usually the person needs to be able to validate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because then it helps you kind of hone in, like a map almost, right? That's really cool.
I never know why they're showing me things, because they might be because it's like passing on an inside joke, right? I'm not in that person's life. Right. I had a lady showing me car keys once with an engine roaring and stuff, and so I kept asking the lady if she was getting a new car, and she's like, no. And so finally she said that her mother-in-law had left them her convertible sports car, and they were going the next day to get it out of storage.
Oh, wow.
So her mother, do you know what I mean? I just never know why they're showing me what they're showing me.
Oh, boy. So we've got some comments here. Robert had said that spirits are reincarnated. Do you think he's asking if you believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
We're not just one and done.
Okay, and then this lady said early on at 2 months, I believe. This was from Isabel. And Isabel, I'm not quite sure because I can only read a portion of that, if you meant that you're pregnant now or if you had a miscarriage early on. So anyway, there's a comment from her, but I'm not quite sure what. And then
early on 2 months, that would make sense if she did. If she did, just know that soul will come back again if she opens that door.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so we've got about 2 minutes left, so we're going to need to wrap it up a little bit. This has been really fun and enlightening and interesting to hear about how it affects you in your everyday life, which is something we never think of when we talk to a medium. We never really ask them about them. So once again, let's talk about your website, how people can get a hold of you, and just give them that information again.
See, try this again. It's thmedium.ca, and you can email me at tracy@thmedium.ca.
Okay, so thmedium.ca, and you can email her Tracy, Tracy, right, at thmedium.ca. We're about ready to wrap up the show. Got 1 minute. Any last messages coming through? Anything you want to say?
Thank you for having me on. This was so much fun, and I hope that everybody listening had a good time and it was helpful. And just thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate having you on the air. We'll have you on again. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right. You take care, Tracy. I'm going to turn back around here, and I'm going to attempt. Oh, that's off over there. Oh, there it is. I'm going to attempt to put the music back on right now. You're listening to KUHSdenver.com, Denver Stream. We're broadcasting live from Denver to around the world. Okay, I better get that music up.